Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
The prep to go pro continues tonight as the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup visits the Spielberg and Red Bull Ring circuit for round 3 of the championship. I am Sam Fitzpatrick, and alongside me for this round is Chad Dick with Samuli Kumo, bringing you this broadcast on Apex Racing TV. Chad, we're coming into the end of the first half of the championship, and we visit a circuit which has been likened to an oval because it is just a bunch of right-handers and a bit of a nothing left-hander as well midway round the lap. It's a very unusual circuit. You can see it just by the track map how unusual and different it is from many others, and a very short layout as well, and a one that the drivers will not have much familiarity round at all.
Yeah, Red Bull is a fast track to begin with, so when you cut it in half, we're in for the textbook definition of a sprint race here today. I think in practice, most of the guys were averaging around 49 or 50 seconds a lap, so if you blink too long, you might miss the lap. This track reminds me quite a bit of my home track here in Connecticut, Lime Rock. Just as you said, lots of right-hand turns with a left-hander thrown in the middle there, so this is going to test the driver's ability to keep the car balanced, and they're going to have to watch the tire temperatures on the left side of their car with all those right-hand turns.
Here are the point standings going into round 3 of the championship. Leon Rundinger, who was ever so strong last time out, he's at the top with Costa and Yanni rounding out the top 3. And we've got the Pro-Am Championship, and in that one, it's looking good right now for Philip Hammer, 17 points clear of Luis Bulicki and Tiago Pereira. And in the amateurs, it's been fairly dominant so far for Thorsten Seifert. He's been the only driver to get into either a final so far. You can see just 16 points ahead of the consistent Joseph Saul. Bob Humphrey had a bit of a tough time last time out and drops to 3rd place in that championship. And in the teams, it is also fairly competitive at the moment with a little bit of movement about from the previous round of the championship. And yeah, we will, there it is, Impulse Racing at the top of that one, ahead of Fire Academy and Apex Racing Team as it stands. And already a lot of qualifying times are being put in, and many of the top drivers have completed that lap times, and that is the gap at the top, 3 thousandths of a second between the top 2. It's pretty much what we expected.
Yeah, 100%. You were halfway through the season here. If I were to use a golf analogy, these are sort of the moving days. We saw quite a bit of movement between race 1 and race 2 up at the top of our grid. So it'll be very interesting to see how these drivers handle such a fast moving track. Traffic is going to be an issue here. As I said earlier, keeping the car balanced, particularly through that U-turn right there after turn 2 and 3. You're moving the car from right to left as you get back onto the circuit. And as I was watching in practice, quite a few of the drivers were having a difficult time keeping the car balanced and not losing the tires. So those will be the areas that I'm going to keep an eye on for, maybe any mix-ups and incidents today. Otherwise, I think the one who can maintain momentum today and keep those speeds high and times low will be the ones who can stay out in front.
Let's see if Tim Bilicki can do exactly that. One of the top amateur drivers, and he goes to the top of the amateur drivers. Fantastic effort for him. For reference, he's just out-qualified Bernardo Faria. Faria 8.8k, Tim Bilicki 2.9, so quite the difference between the two of them. Still a few more drivers, particularly the amateur drivers, yet to complete their lap time. We've got quite a big field, once again about 35 drivers. Top 6 going through from each, top 8 going through from each of the heats, and then the top 4 going through from the B final to make a 20-car A final, which will be a mammoth 36 laps for this round of the championship. It is that short a circuit, as we see. If Ferrari can improve at all, however, he's already done his 2 lap times, so he won't be able to improve because these laps don't count now at this point. And yeah, also only 2 sectors for this circuit, which compared to some of the 8 that we get occasionally is quite a welcome relief. Now I've got a little bit of a quiz for you today, Chad, because this is such a short circuit. I wanted you to tell me if these various things are longer or shorter than this circuit. So we'll start with round 1. Is the tallest building in the world longer or shorter than this Red Bull Ring layout?
I presume you're talking about that tall building in Dubai.
Exactly,
I'm going to say... that's a good one. Well, that feels like a trick question, so I'm going to go with the taller building. The building is taller. All right.
0 out of 1 so far. Okay, and of course, play along at home. This is peak Apex Racing TV right now. The Hollywood Walk of Fame, longer or shorter?
Ooh, never walked it, so I have absolutely no idea how long it is, but I'm going to guess it's longer, because there are a lot of stars out there.
congratulations, it is longer. It's Nick Masson is 13th place, but that really, it really isn't important right now. How about the Kentucky Derby? Is the Kentucky Derby longer or shorter than this circuit?
Well, if you're going by length, I'm going to say shorter, but time probably longer.
Okay, I think you're right on both. So Kentucky Derby is shorter. And the last one, I think the most interesting one, the longest roller coaster in the world. And I will give you a reference. This is the closest one to this layout. This ought to be the toughest one for you to guess.
Oh, well, let's go with the roller coaster. That just sounds like more fun anyway.
You're correct. So I think that was 3 out of 4. So let us know in the chat, as Nick Masson now goes to 10th place. Let us know in the chat how many you scored on that one. Basically, it's a really short circuit. It's 1.45 miles long. So, yeah, it goes by very quickly, and these drivers get through it very quickly. And they've got through it so quickly that we've got 40 seconds left of this qualifying session. Everyone's completed their lap times. No rush whatsoever.
Short enough they can literally do a track walk and not break a sweat.
Yeah. And I think as a viewer, and of course, you know, our broadcaster Samudi Kumo visited this circuit earlier this year. I mean, usually the big layout, the Grand Prix course, that's usually fairly good to spectate here at Red Bull Ring, with the way that the mountains kind of elevate parts of the circuit. For the short layout, it's even better. It's almost all within kind of eye shot, and it's a nice little oval. And yeah, so viewing would be extremely good, and it'll be very good for us tonight as well, because we've got some big fields, and this first one has got 18 cars, and it's Heat 1. Michael Yanni on pole position. You got the overall pole position. Then it's Julian Jerry Zeineld. Then Luke McCone lining up in 3rd position. Behind him is Laurent Benzo. Good to see him getting his qualifying right this time. His Silverstone round was really scuppered by a lowly qualifying position. Then it is Manuel Scoli. Philip Hammer was top of the Pro-Am drivers. Then it is Leon Rudinja, way down the order for Leon, who's been so strong so far this season. Tiago Pereira, Tim Belicki and Bernardo Faria rounding out the top 10, followed by Bob Humphrey, Simon Huber, Paul Joseph Kliss, Chase Robertson, Corey Lazarus, Kai Dalziel, Thorsten Seifert, he's got a bit of work to do to get into the A final, and Jay Walsh rounding out our 18 cars.
Yeah, only a second separating P1 through P10. So again, this is going to be a very tight field, and I would imagine those lap time differences are just, you know, a bobble here or there, a missed corner here or there. It's not going to take much to separate the field on this shorter track.
No, surely one of the closest qualifyings we've seen so far this season. When it comes to overtaking, it might be one of the toughest. Turn 2, at least last year, which is the only experience that I've got commentating around this layout, and the only real experience that many of these drivers will have as well. So last year in the qualifier series, turn 2 was the place to overtake. It's a wide turn in, but it's also a place for crashes throughout the race, but particularly on lap 1. So watch out for that one. But Michael Yanni will be looking to escape any of that. Apex Racing team lead the way for this Heat 1 of the evening. It's a strong start for Yanni. McClure might be under a bit of pressure from Benzo in the back half. Actually, Benzo might be under pressure from Scoli after all that. Actually sending it there, it was Luke McCurran, and Jay Zeineld had to turn out of the corner slightly. Now we've got a car around. I think that is Tiago Pereira and Kai Dalziel, and 4 drivers all round very quickly. Corey Lazarus, I think, involved as well, and he's got quite a lot of damage on that car. But out in the lead, it's Michael Yanni leading the way. McCurran was able to get past, and Jerry Zeineld maybe contact with McCurran because he's dropped his lowest spin.
It's a very common thing to see here, particularly lap 1 as cars come around turn 1. If you get any tires up on that curb and you lose the balance, you can quickly spin and collect a couple other cars, which is what looks like happened back there.
Oh, there's a move into the final corner just behind these drivers. I think that was Tim Belicki ahead of Bob Humphrey. Good start for Humphrey, actually up 2 places. Good start for Thorsten Seifert, up 4 places. Started second to last, but was able to get through that mess cleanly. But Humphrey looking to get past Belicki. He's had a very strong season so far. As we've got a car spun in the background. That's the 310 of Chase Robertson. Setback for him. As I think Belicki maybe with a slowdown. He seemed a bit slow on the inside coming out of turn 1. And Humphrey and Farrier have both moved their way past.
Yeah, that's one of those little tricks here at Red Bull that you got to learn early. Is if you do go off and go wide of that yellow curb, you got to get your tires back inside the white line. Otherwise, you face a slowdown again, depending upon how fast and far you go wide.
This was one of the first circuits which they introduced the track limits, where it's all about where the edge of your car is rather than, well, it's still based on where the center of the car is, but there's like a specific line. But it's not the red and white curve, it's like beyond that. It's quite tricky to understand why they've done it like that. But that is how it is here at Red Bull Ring. So you'll see them go miles up the circuits, but won't necessarily pick up a 1x. Here comes Farrier. This is the turn 2 dive that I was mentioning before, and Farrier was way too far back and he almost went for it. He wisely backs out of it, but I do feel like this is only a matter of time.
Yeah, I think of that corner as almost like a smaller, faster version of the carousel at Road America, which a lot of people are racing this week. It's a sweeper downhill to the right. The difference being, instead of at the bottom getting full-on throttle on a straight, you've got a quick left-hander and then a quick right-hander. So you're kind of going right, left, right, which can, in this car, if you're not doing smooth inputs, you can really unbalance the car, and we might find some folks spinning out, getting a little eager on the throttle.
Behind Borges and Cliff being overtaken by Thorsten Seifert. Maybe not. Maybe Cliff is going to be able to hold on to this one. Thorsten very passive. And, well, he managed to finish, I think, 7th place in his heat last time. It was an amazing performance as Pereira and Lazarus, after their issues earlier on in the race, re-entered the circuit. They are 2 laps down, however, on the race leaders at the moment, or the entire field, frankly. So they'll just circulate, try to get a few points and maybe beat each other, because of course, depending on where you finish, even if you don't get in the top 8 for this race, top 8 gets straight through to the A final. Everyone behind that, their grid position set for the next races. That is Humphrey trying to lap Thiago Pereira at the moment, as Seifert tries again to get past Paul Joseph List.
Yeah, Seifert has been very quick and very consistent in the first 2 races. It's not a surprise that he's at the top of the AM leaderboard, and it sure looks from this perspective that he is doing his best to earn a promotion up to that Pro-Am class, because he has just been at the top of his class and really matching wits with some of the higher I-rated and class drivers.
They've got Simon Huber catching up as well. I will say as well, the quality in this field is so high. The cuts-off between the Pro-Ams and the AMs is actually at 3k. So we've got Thorsten there at 2.7k, which a lot of our leagues, you know, that could be the pro cuts-off. I think in the GT3 Trophy, for example, I think it's 3.5k to go pro. So, and in this case, it's 6k to go pro. So it's just very, very inflated I-ratings for this. So there goes Seifert. He's up to 11th place. That's a couple of extra positions on the grid for the B final, but of course what he'll be hoping is there's some chaos ahead of him. He can get into that coveted top 8. Currently Humphrey is still in that top 8, but out to the lead, we haven't really watched him so far. Michael Yanni leading an Apex Racing team 1-2 as it stands. And good to see Yanni performing so high. It seemed like McLaren had a little bit more pace last time out, but Yanni performed better in qualifying, a fair bit better in qualifying. Was about a quarter of a second clear, and he's pulling away in this race as well. He's got a 1.3 second gap.
Yeah, this is certainly a track configuration where a good qualifying position can really help you, because if you can jump out to a lead, stay in clean air and stay out of traffic and just run your own race without making mistakes, hopefully you can hold position if you've got the pace. It's when you get into these tighter groups, these groups of 3, 4, and 5 cars as we're looking at here, things can happen because people are pressing you from the front or you're chasing the guy ahead, and you got a lot to think about, particularly with so much action happening on track.
Kai Dalzio has just moved into 13th place. He's got past Simon Huber. This one's closing up a little bit now. Benzo being caught by Manuel Scully. And of course behind them is as we've got Porteous Clist off the circuit. Very speedy though, again back onto the circuit. Speedy enough to get back off it again though, in order to avoid anyone hitting him. And he has lost a few places. Here's what happened to Porteous Clist, just using the rear end and just put it straight into reverse and get back onto the circuit. Incredible mirror driving there from Paul, and he does a nice little turn to finish off the manoeuvre.
Well, if you're going to go off track, that's a stylish way to do it. He kept it off the wall and, as you said, just kind of popped it quickly into reverse and got right back on track and headed back on out again.
So this is now a huge fight. They've got a big gap of these drivers to the cars ahead as Benzo's had to come to the pits. Might not be so big anymore because Benzo, what has happened here? He couldn't have reached the instant limit already. The instant limit is 16, I believe. He's on 13 as it stands, but he's had to come into the pits. Maybe he put the qualifying set in. I don't know. What's gone on?
I think we'll find out here. It's definitely an unusual sight to see one of these cars come into the pits because these races are structured so they don't have to take a pit stop, so that usually means trouble of some sort. Maybe it's something in real life that's gotten in the way.
And well, Scully, what's going on? They're all going. This is what happened to Scully, but I think this is just him pulling to the side of the circuit. What is happening here at the Red Bull Ring? Well, all of a sudden, I was speaking about, Bob Humphrey versus Bernardo Faria. That's going to be the battle to get in. No anymore. They're comfortably 6th and 7th. It's Balicki and Seifert who are trying to get through now. Seifert might make it through on the bounce, but he is about a second and a half away from that top 8 as it stands. But what a change up in this race. And Bob Humphrey is having by far his best event in ARL. A former ARL... I'm not sure if he's ever won a race, to be fair. I don't think he's won a championship. He's not very good as Bob, but he's doing fantastically well right now in 6th position. And yeah, would be an amazing result. But here comes Farrier. He sticks it up the inside, can't get it stopped, and Humphrey takes back that position immediately.
I mean, some fantastic races from drivers from all 3 classes there. We've got P4, 5, 6, and 7, a mix of Pro-Am, and Am drivers there. So I think that goes back to your point about maybe these are arbitrary splits between the classes because these guys all have some real skill and pace in this car.
A little bit slow there for Balicki through Niki Lauda curve. Apologies, Jochen Rindt curve. My Niki Lauda is turn 1. Red Bull Mobile is the final corner, and then turn 2 doesn't have a name, but turn 3 is called Worth. Because turn 2 isn't usually on the circuit, so they've not taken the need to name it. As really going well over the circuit. That was very much F1 back in 2003, but when they visited the circuit where they said goodbye to track limits and the drivers were driving out as far as they possibly could. That was the line that Farrier was taken. But it really does demonstrate just how tricky it is to overtake around the circuit that Farrier here on lap 11. Well, yeah, lap 11 of their race. Still is unable to get past the Ebru SR green driver. And the longer this goes on, you feel like he might get to the end here, Humphrey, keeping this 6th position because I believe we are now on the last lap of the race.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that no-name curve is really a fun one to watch because there's many lines you can take in there. We're seeing some guys take a defensive line. We're seeing some guys try and maybe take more of a constant radius line and maintain their momentum. We've seen a couple of guys almost double apex it, come in tight, go wide, go back tight on the exit so that they are wide for the next left-hand turn. So it really is sort of forcing some strategies. We see a couple cars going side by side and trying the over-under here.
Well, Humphrey might be safe now. He's definitely safe now because Farrier's made a mistake. Oh, Farrier's got to get through in the top 8, surely. He's still in 7th place, but Balicki's going to be under all kinds of pressure from Seifert for that final position to get through. These guys are going alongside. The race lead winners have already come across, but this is what matters because Farrier's holding on and Balicki's trying to stick it around the outside, but he doesn't need the position. And can Seifert take advantage of this right at the end? He's trying to get past as best he possibly can. What is going to happen across the line? It's Farrier in 7th, Balicki in 8th, and Seifert was in 9th position. I think there may be a back marker as well in all of that. Maybe Corey Lazarus or Manuel Scully, I think, was involved. But Balicki does get through, and Seifert will have to go through the B final, albeit he will start on pole position. As the remaining drivers cross the line, Paul Clist will be the last driver across. But what a strange first race with a couple of bizarre pit stop for Benzo, who never got back out on circuit. And another driver as well, just stopping on the side of the circuit, along with that 4-car shunt we had right at the start. Well, let's go straight into Heat 2 then. Parker White on pole position ahead of Mario Velgert. Malte Roma in 3rd place, followed by Roger Christensen. Then it's Nick Madsen, Pascal Costa, and Thomas Cope. Cope was really good in practice, so that's a bit of an underachievement for him to be down in 7th on the grid. Then it's the Pro-Ams of Sedgley, Espadina, Vatsig, Young, Holland, and then it's a couple of AMs, Copeland and Saul. The other Belicki of the Luis variety is in 15th place. Then it's Luis Araya and Glenn Humberston rounding out the 17 cars.
Yeah, I've got my eye on Roger Christensen in this race. He had a tough time last week and fell back a few spots in the rankings. So I wonder how much of that's going to fuel him to want to just earn a really good spot in the final here. He's starting in P4, so let's keep an eye on him.
Could be very dangerous. Well, everyone got off the line fantastically well in Heat 1. Are they going to repeat it for Heat 2? It's Parker White from the pole. It's not a fantastic launch for him. It's a best start for Malte Roma there, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do a whole lot with it because Velka is staying resolute on the inside of the circuit. One of these guys is going to have to surely go off the track, albeit they do leave each other a bit of room, and already White is absolutely sprinting ahead of the rest of the field. It's Velka. Roma's trying every which way to get past. Also Nick Madsen looking aggressive from 5th position, but there's no changes in the top 8. There is an instant further back though. Kev Copeland, who had a good qualifying, he's dropped back, and now Pascal Costa has dropped back outside of the advancing positions as well. Just one tap and he's been sent down about 5 places.
Little cleaner start, but again, we see some smoking tires lockups. We see a few folks losing themselves on the grass. This is a perfect example of how when you're battling and you're losing pace, guys in the front can just run away, as we're seeing with Parker getting a good start.
And Joseph Saul running off the circuit as well. And now Costa's got a slowdown. Wow. I mean, how quickly any could just get away from you, because this is pretty much ruining any chance of an overall podium, which I'm sure is what he would have been aiming for, if not the race win earlier today. Luis Belicki a little bit slow as well. I'm thinking maybe he's got a slowdown, and he does have a slowdown, and he's having to really come to a stop now because I think that grew potentially. And Joseph Saul now a little bit offline, but I think he's pretty much just letting Costa go, realising that the German driver is going to get past eventually anyway. Malte Roma has got up into 2nd position meanwhile. That's a big move there for the Danish driver, and he's got past Mario Velga, but it's very close all the way down to 6th position in this very competitive 5-car pack.
Yeah, those slowdowns can be a real killer, and they're really easy to get on both turn 1 and the final turn here. So again, depending on how wide and how fast you go through there, if you pick up a second or two slowdown on a 49-second lap, boy, is that costly in a tight grid like this.
So Roma, who was very much doing the defence last time out at Silverstone, had some really good battles. That was posted on the Apex Racing TV, League and Academy social media pages earlier on, as Luis O'Brien has found the wall and damaged that Olympus esports Porsche. But tonight, it seems like Roma is the one making the overtakes. He's had a good time of it so far. Instant 4, I feel like Thomas Cope. Thomas Cope has made a mistake, I believe, but he's got Sedgley ahead of him, because Cope was with the pack ahead, so yeah, he's dropped away. So it must have been a mistake, but he has lost at least to his teammates, so maybe they will switch those positions quickly afterwards. Yeah, not having a good time, but at the moment it's the British driver, like I said, really quick in practice, but wasn't able to deliver an especially strong qualifying time. But he's actually falling away at the moment, and then behind him, Dan Holland and the debutant, Lars Vatzik, who has taken part in previous Porsche Cup seasons, but it's his first race of this season.
Yeah, we're starting to see a little bit more sorting by class here with the pros at the top of the leaderboard. We've got our Pro-Ams right in the middle of the pack, and then our AM class down at the bottom with a couple of exceptions. So this one, again, I think cleaner start in the qualifying pace, probably sorted the field right from the get-go, and they're just kind of holding station.
As Cope moves back past Sedgley then for 6th position. But he's got 2.5 seconds now to catch up to Madsen, so I seriously doubt that is going to happen. Top 8 currently: White, Roma, Spelgert, Christensen, Madsen, Cope, Sedgley and Holland. I say the top 5 are very secure in that. Cope, I think, is very secure in 6th as well. And it will be these Pro-Ams who will be the ones on the fringe. Maybe Pascal Costa as well, currently in 12th position. He's catching up to these guys very quickly. He's got 6 minutes to gain 4 positions. That will be tough.
Boy, if he can make it into the top 8, that would be one heck of a recovery, because I think he dropped all the way down to like 15th or so. So he had a fantastic week last week, moved up a few spots in the standings, and I'm sure he's a little frustrated to find himself driving a recovery drive here in this heat.
I wonder if we can get a replay of what happened to Costa earlier on. Also the incident with Kev Copeland, which sent him down the order, because Costa, I think it was through, I won't call it the right thing, Verth. It was through this corner called Verth, where he had a little bit of contact, and just because the field was so packed together, he got sent down. Then he picked up a slowdown a couple of corners later. It was just a bit of a miserable affair for him. Sedgley having to now go on the defense against Holland. Olympus Esports versus Alpha Esports. And this is inviting Vatsic as well. And this will be good news as well for Costa. But here comes Holland. This could be his move into the 7th position, and that much more secure in the A final. Doesn't look like Sedgley's going to be able to defend. I don't think he's going to be able to defend either against Vatsic, who's getting his car partially alongside, trying to cover it off as best as he possibly can. It's the 229. But he's carried fantastic speed on the outside of turn 2. Now they head into Verth for the 7th time in this race, and this is allowing Holland to absolutely sprint away ahead. It's Sedgley versus Vatsic though for that 8th position into the final 2 corners.
Well, that's some really good racing there, and he's having to play double defense there. And in this car, taking the inside line isn't always as easy as it is maybe in other GT3s that have more downforce and traction control and ABS. This car has a tendency to understeer if you don't get the setup right, and if you're getting on throttle through a turn like 1, it'd be very easy to wash out to the car on the outside. So the fact that these guys are holding position and not banging doors, again, just goes to speak to their ability to control this car even at this pace.
Aiden Young absolutely sending it into turn 1. I think he's, apologies, this is on board with Aiden Young. He's being overtaken by Pascal Costa at the moment, and then you can also see Sedgley losing out as well to, there's contact, and Young getting out of the throttle. Apologies, it was Balicki moving past Young. My apologies. It's Costa who is next up behind. This one is Vatsic versus Sedgley, and Vatsic was able to get past and into 8th position. But really, any of these guys could get through with 3 minutes and 10 seconds remaining. We will barely go over the 10 minutes if Heat 1 is anything to go by, as Vatsic is going to have to, well, he's not going defensive, and he's going to carry some excellent speed right there. Behind him, they're ever so slow, going offline there was Luis Balicki. Still Costa not making a whole lot of progress. He's at the back of this train, and this one is getting away from these drivers and very much falling into the palms of Luis Vatsic as he pulls a half-second lead.
I told you this was going to be the epitome of the sprint. We can barely catch our breath before the next piece of action comes along, and those 5 cars are within a second of each other. So even though Costa finds himself at the back, if somebody bobbles or somebody makes a mistake or 2 cars getting into it in front of him, the next thing you know, he might move up 5 spots.
Fantastic pace right now for Mate Roma in 2nd position. Of course, he got past Mario Velkert earlier on in the race, but he's just set at lap time a 10th faster. He set the fastest lap of the race of anyone on that last time around, as here comes Costa. Wow, that was super close to contact. They certainly made contact on exit, and just ahead of them as well, a daring overtake for Sedgley. He's still trying to get into the top 8. Vatsic sends it on the outside, and he's holding on. He'll have the inside for turn 3, but I thought Vatsic might have the opportunity to pull away. It looked like he was pulling away, and yet Sedgley has been able to bounce back. Costa wasn't able to get the move done on Young, and so this battle still feels a very long way away from him, but I think they're going to start bunching up very soon as Sedgley sends it on the outside. Surely he can't do anything on the outside of Red Bull Mobile here, because usually you just get shoved off the circuit. No problems for him whatsoever that time round though, and it's a poor exit for Vatsic, and from looking like he was going to get through into the A final, it's looking unlikely now because he's been overtaken by Luis Balicki as well, and it's all change for this 9th position as they go alongside once again, and Balicki is going to go through as Costa goes through as well. They're 3 wide, and it's an awful couple of corners for Lars Vatsic, who drops 4 places in 3 corners.
I mean, there you go. Look at how quickly those positions changed. And that was a good illustration of staying on the outside and using all the track, or maybe even, you know, taking an off track here or two to maintain your momentum and speed through these corners is essential to not just holding position, but completing the overtake. It's really hard to hold your position on the inside, as we're seeing there. And, you know, it's just really good close battling.
Yeah, Lars Batsik is his lap going from bad to worse, and he's down to 12th position now. Absolutely miserable time for him. By the way, shout out to One Man Johnson for subscribing. Thank you for doing that. And of course, everyone else who's tuned in, thank you very much for watching. And of course, if you're a driver watching back as well, hopefully you are enjoying the stream. Parker White is really having a fun time today. And just as we reach the 10 minutes, the checker flag is going to be waved, and it is no stress for Parker White. He takes the Heat 2 race victory ahead of Roma, Vilgert rounding out the podium. Then Christensen, Madsen, Cope, Olin top of the Pro-Ams, and Sedgley will hold on against Luis Belicki. He was inside the top 8. He was even as high as 6th at one point was Sedgley. He dropped down to 9th, but a late move on Batsik got him back in, and Belicki will have to go through the B final once again, just as he did, to be fair, at Silverstone 1 week ago. We'll have Copeland and O'Reilly across the line as well before we go into the B final. And now O'Reilly is across the line, we will transfer over, and a 14-minute B final lines up for us now. And it's a bigger grid as well for this one. It is 19 cars, and it is Thorsten Seifert looking to get through into the A final for the 3rd week running ahead of Luis Belicki, who we saw just miss out a couple of moments ago. Then it's Kai Dalziel. Pascal Costa will surely be a guaranteed driver to get through in this one. Simon Huber in 5th place. Then it's Aidan Young, Chase Robertson, Pedro Espadina, Jay Walsh, Lars Vatsik, Paul Joseph Kless, Joseph Saul, Tiago Pereira, Glenn Humberston, Corey Lazarus, Kev Copeland, Manuel Scully, Luis Araya, and Laurent Benzo. Hopefully he'll take the grid. If he does, he'll be starting in last.
Top 4 spots go through. I've got my eyes on Pascal Costa, as you said. He's looking to continue his recovery and redemption. But I also looked at Aidan Young, who had a fantastic week last week, probably coming in with some confidence. Let's see if he can get it done.
Benzo did take the grid, so we have got 19 cars on the grid for this B final. As we launch away, Thorsten Seifert leads us away, but maybe for not very long, because it was a better start for Luis Belicki. It was an awful start for Pascal Costa, who's been sent backwards rather than forwards right from the start. Almost daring 3 wide. There is contact. I think that's Espadina round, and that was just unlucky with a couple of cars having to leave room for one another. Belicki was able to take the lead. He leads from Seifert, who's now lost out to Dalziel as well. Really right on board with Manuel Scully, trying to navigate his way through these first few corners, as he's on the outside through Worth corner at the moment. But Dalziel's now actually taken the lead now. So Dalziel, the Canadian driver from 3rd place on the grid, has sent his way up, as we might have 3 wide heading into Niki Lauda curve, and they siphoned their way through a bit of contact, and just being shoved out, I think, was Joseph Saul right there. Scully in 10th position, but it's all changed at the front with Dalziel up 2 places, Young up 3 places, and Costa was able to get back into 4th place after that awful launch.
Yeah, it's really nice to see Young jumping all the way up to P3 there from P6. So he's obviously off to a good start. He's going to be pressed here by Costa. But if he can hold in the top 4, we can on to the next final.
Oh, that's a mess. They got through it though somehow. Oh, and there's more contact. That was just one car, I think, with a slowdown. I think it was Thorsten Seifert picked up a slowdown. Really slow on the inside. That caused 3 wide. And everyone was just checking up, trying to desperately get through with as little contact as possible.
You get the tires overheated here. You really wish you had a nice long straight or something to cool them down, but these guys are not even going to get a break for that, which is why I think we're seeing a lot of these kind of back-to-back tire lockups and slides. A little bit of Tokyo drifting there through that no-name corner.
Ever so close out in the lead. It's going to be very close as well for 3rd place, because Pascal Costa's got past Aidan Young. Young has experience in these races. He knows what he needs to do in order to get into the A final, and 4th place would be enough for him as it stands. So Costa in 3rd, Dalziel and Belicki, I think, also being quite aware. Belicki being quite passive so far, not wanting to send it on Dalziel. course, Belicki starting on the front row did take the lead, but Dalziel was able to get up from the second row of the grid into the race leader. Simon Huber has had a setback, and he's down to 12th place. Behind him, Laurent Benzo, decent start for Benzo. I mean, 6 places is usually a really good start, but I think he's probably a bit disappointed that he's already 8 seconds off the race lead, and so and a fair bit off the top 4 as well. So Benzo is going to have to really perform at his highest level in order to get into that top 4 by the end of the 14 minutes. As we see, this is Joseph Saul looking to get past Corey Lazarus, and there's contact, and they're both round, and everyone behind is having to scatter.
Well, mere mortals would have lost those 2 cars. What a fantastic job catching it, holding it, and not collecting any other cars. So it obviously.
Oh no, it's happened again. Same team.
Spoke too soon.
Oh well, yeah. That's a frustrating one for Lazarus, who, as a Pro-Am driver, I'm sure was looking to get into the A final, but it's not going to happen tonight. Meanwhile, Costa's got up into second place. He's got past Luis Belicki, and Belicki a bit slow again here, so Young's now passed. This isn't good for Belicki because he's now got Manuel Scully, who's up 12 places, is the Argentinian. Fantastic to have Latin American representation out here tonight, and yeah, he's only 1.8 seconds behind Belicki, so Belicki from a comfortable second place. This one is all of a sudden getting a bit treacherous for him.
Wow, you look at all the drivers in P6, 5, 6, 7 there. You've got Scully was up 12, Watzig is up 4, and then Seifert down 6, but as we know, Seifert has had a good couple of weeks making it through to the feature, so I got to imagine he doesn't want to break that streak. So those 3 drivers there are going to start putting some pressure on Belicki and Young, I think, sitting there in 3 and 4.
Yeah, that's would be enough for them in 3rd and 4th as it stands. But yeah, not totally comfortable. As Espadina's moved up to 13th. He's got past Kev Copeland. Disappointing round for Copeland because he actually qualified quite well. So here comes Costa, getting his car partially alongside. Dalziel needs to play the percentages here. Costa knows that he's probably going to get past anyway. But at the same time, he probably does want to get past because the 3 behind him are all catching. And when you're in a pack of 5, one of you isn't going to get through. So there is an incentive for Costa certainly to get past, but for Dalziel, surely it's just a case of keeping as big a gap to 3rd and 4th as possible. As here comes Costa, this is a nice exit. You can see on the relative that gap reducing is on the power a few meters of a second, a few meters earlier. And well, Dalziel is still fighting this one. He's having to go on the defense, but this time he's gone way too wide, and the German driver Costa will easily move through. The fiercely forward driver can have no response. He's got his teammates still behind him, but this battle for 2nd down to 5th is going to be ever so close to the end of this race.
Yeah, that was a well-anticipated move there by Costa. He saw Dalziel taking the inside, taking the protective line, knew he was going to be compromised on exit, just kind of patiently waited for him to track out and cut right in underneath and took over P1.
Yeah, just that pressure telling eventually, and yeah, as you say, just taking that very nice racing line to be able to move past. As here comes Belicki on Young. So apologies, Young was able to get past Belicki, wasn't he, a couple of laps ago? And so Belicki's trying to come back now, but guys, you're both in at the moment, you're both in. But they both don't want to be caught by Scully, who is undoubtedly going to catch them by the end of this race. It'll be a question of whether the Argentinian can get past. But Belicki is back to 3rd place, and it's Young who's in that dangerous 4th position now. And Scully is all over the back. I'm not sure who's going to get through. I feel like Scully's probably going to get past the pair of these, and it might just be a duel between Belicki and Young for that 4th place. But it's always tricky to predict these things.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this plays out, because if they get into it and start playing a little bit offense-defense and slow up, also keep an eye on Watzig there in P6. He's only a couple seconds back, and you know, the gaps that we just saw a couple laps ago closed up very quickly there with that side-by-side door banging going through turn 1 on the two groups there. So we still have 7 minutes, half this race to go. A lot has already happened, and a lot still could.
Trying to go all the way to the inside of the circuit there. Young was nice and sensible on the brakes, got it stopped. I think Scully sort of hoping that there would be a Dalziel type mistake there. It is unusual that Young is struggling as much as he is. He's not been quite as quick as he was at Silverstone, undoubtedly. But in this B final, the pace has seemingly got away from him. I trust him to be at least the same pace as his teammate Dalziel and probably faster than Bilicki. But not being the case, and Scully is just looking that much more confident. By the way, there was a move again for Espadina past Copeland. I think that's the second time that the Portuguese got past. Those two drivers seemingly quite evenly matched for 13th and 14th place. Scully will get a nice exit from turn 1 again. He could send it from this far back, but he chooses not to. He's got 6 minutes to pull this one off.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing here is a perfect illustration of why you always want to be out in front, not sandwiched between two drivers, because when you're trying to play offense and defense, try to keep up with the guy in front and keep the guy behind, that's multitasking, and as we know, human beings don't do very well at that. So I'm sure Young is a little envious of his teammate Dalziel, who's up ahead of this little pack and has clean air out in front of him.
Yeah, Dalziel really has been very consistent the last few laps, because Bilicki is catching up, but not enough. Costa, meanwhile, absolutely dominating fast up the race, only man underneath the 50 so far in this race is Copeland, who was having a nice battle against Espadina, but that battle has very much come to an end. And he's now last of the runners. Humberston out, Benzo out. Not sure what happened to Benzo. He had made a few places up at Benzo at one point. Lazarus, of course, just having an absolutely awful evening. Managed to collide with Joseph Saul twice. I think it was Saul at least. It was one of the Evo cars. And Humberston, not sure what happened to Humberston actually for 88 Tech Racing. But Griffin going to have a very boring race now to the end. Young, 0.2 of a second ahead of Scully. Laps ticking away. I mean, he's still got another, 5 laps to get this one done as Scully, but he's already had 3 where he's had the opportunity, hasn't gone for it yet. Now this is a very good chance into turn 1. He could certainly pull alongside if he wants to. Here he goes, he darts right out at the last opportunity, and Young has no response. But he will try to get back underneath a little bit over the curb there for Scully, as Costa's had an incident. And Costa seemingly is out of this race. Must have been a technical issue for him. And our leader is gone. And all of a sudden, Young is going to go through after all.
What an unbelievable turn of events there. That's an unfortunate event there for Costa, because he was climbing his way up there and holding station at the front. So you hate to see that when technical issues can take somebody out. But look at our top 4 now. We got Dalziel, Bilicki, Scully, and Young. They're in, and Watzig is not far behind. Seifert not looking to break his streak. So I think we still have some good action here in the last 4 minutes to keep an eye on. See who can finish up and make that final feature.
I wonder if you get a replay of that incident with Costa, because I'm seeing a manual disconnect. So maybe it could have been a hardware thing. It looked like he disappeared. But then, yeah, it's still manually disconnected apparently, which seems like it was in his control. Let's see, was it a spin, or was it a hardware, or was it just him disappearing? Oh, he did lose it by himself. Man. And then he's just hit the front corner and disappeared. I think he's just had enough at that point. Oh, Pascal. What a shame. Former champion, of course, in this series. But not going to be this season. So easily through as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'm guessing that's kind of the common story of all 4 of our drivers who've retired. You know, here we are in the the B final, trying to make your way into the feature. There's a point at which you just have a bad day on track. Things don't go your way. Maybe it's bad luck. Maybe you make a mistake, and you just kind of make the calculus that says, maybe I'll hang it up, put the time into practice for the next week, and just take that this is what my result's going to be. It's unfortunate.
And you can see the danger of that curb. It seemed like the car got a bit beached on the sausage curb and very much unsettled it, and round he went. So Dalziel and Bilicki comfortably going through. No need to race, guys. Batzik doesn't look like he's going to get through. Cypher doesn't look like he's going to get through. We did have Humphrey, I think, is the only amateur driver to have progressed though so far. I might be wrong on that, but I think I'm right. So Humphrey looks like he's going to be the only one who gets through. Cypher is not going to get through, unlike the previous 2 meetings. So will only be one amateur in, but this time his name will not be Thorsten. But these top 4 all got it in hand right now. I'm not sure if we've got one more lap to go after this one, or 2 more. It will be 2 more, actually, to go after this lap. So hopefully they've got enough fuel in their cars. There's a nice battle going on with Pedro Espedino on the recovery drive. He spun at turn 1 on lap 1, and he's been making up places ever since. He's got past Joe Saul recently, and his next victim, and most likely last victim, is Simon Huber for 10th position.
Yeah, nice little battle going on here, and a good example of, never give up. He had a tough first turn on lap 1, and he has fought his way all the way back up here to P11. So mitigating the loss, he's only down 3 from where he started, but obviously putting his head down and trying to make up as many positions as he can.
I think turn 2 will be when he goes for it. No, he's just going to go for it into turn 1. Well, that is absolutely fair enough. He's very slow. Joe Saul might be able to pick up 2 places there. Just not quite wide enough. Well, he is wide enough to go 3 wide. He's split the middle, and he's up to 11th position. Wasn't able to get 2, but at least he gets past Simon Huber. And Joe Saul, who I think is 2nd place in the championship going into this round, needs to try to score as many points as he can. Will not be beating Thorsten Seifert tonight, but will still be keeping tabs with him with an 11th place finish at the moment, as they will start their final lap of the race. It's getting very close for the lead, particularly the top 3. It's down to just 0.6 of a second. No points at stake between these top 3, but it is grid positions for the A final, but I don't think there's going to be time for any of them to send it.
Yeah, we're just hitting the 14-minute mark here, so we're finishing up the race here. This should be their final lap. As we only saw a second separating P1 and P15 in the original qualifying, it's going to be hard to make up 7/10 here in 1 lap without a mistake happening.
Yeah, Dalziel is going to do a real nice drive. Fantastic start from 3rd place on the grid to take the lead. Bilicki moves through as well for the 2nd time in 2 weeks, I believe. Luis Bilicki progresses from the B final, and Manuel Scully, much to the delight of the YouTube chat, is also through in 3rd place. And Aiden Young, a bit of a quiet race, ended up 3 seconds behind Scully. Not Aiden's best pace tonight, but credit to him, he kept it clean out there, and it's a well-deserved 4th position, but it was looking unlikely until Costa's incident at turn 1. Final few drives across the line. It was Seifert top of the AM drivers. I think he'll be 2nd place out of the AM drivers tonight, but Bob Humphrey with a fantastic chance later on when we go into the A final of making up a few places in the championship. So I think we can, well, I'll give a quick shout out, to be fair, to our title sponsor for this series, Apex Racing Academy. Apex Racing Academy offering data packs for over 20 cars on iRacing, whether that be these Porsche Cups, for example, designed by Michael Yanni, who I think won a heat earlier on, so he's very good, is Michael. But also setups designed for GT4 cars, GT3s, touring cars, F3, F4, Rallycross, TCR, loads of different categories of racing covered by Apex Racing Academy. And you should certainly visit apexracingac.com in order to get yourself a bronze or silver or gold membership. All of us use it at Apex Racing TV, and we do very much recommend it if you want to get faster on iRacing, as we've got a couple more minutes of the warm-up to go, Chad. And what are your thoughts going into this A final? Because I think, at least amongst the top guys, we've seen overtaking fairly tricky tonight, and I feel like the pole sits may well have a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, I think that's been the case on all of the heats thus far. Is if you can qualify well, get up front, and stay clean through that first corner or two, and then just hold position without making a mistake. Things that it bodes well for you. I think we're going to see a lot of mid-pack battling going on here. And then I suppose just my takeaway from the first couple of heats there is, boy, if I'm team principal of Fiercely Forward, how happy am I that 2 of the 4 drivers who made it through from the B final into the feature were from my team. So shout out to Kai and to Aiden for doing well there and making the feature final here another week in a row.
Yeah, nice work there from Fiercely Forward. Such a broad team. as far as I'm aware. I mean, they seem to be in pretty much every championship. I think they're in the Apex Racing League Endurance Championship, for example, in a much faster car than this Porsche Cup. But yeah, they are always present. I think I can actually just see them out on track at the moment, battling one another. So they are very much keeping their eye in. That B final wasn't enough for them to yeah, feel comfortable yet with the circuit. And well, I mean, do you think it's going to be perhaps Michael Yanni? Because it seems like Yanni, at least in that heat, maybe had the advantage over the rest of the order by a decent margin. Or do you think a few of those drivers from the second heat, for example, you know, Parker White, Malte Roma, do you think actually they were maybe more impressive in their heat than what Yanni was in his heat?
Yeah, again, with just fractions of a second separating these guys in pace, I think when we put them all together in the same grid, it really is going to be anybody's race from the top 4 or 5 guys up top. I mean, Luke McCowan, I think, was showing just as good a pace as Michael was. And I think what it's going to come down to is, do the front runners get challenged, or are they able to, again, get away with a clean race and build a little bit of a gap and just maintain it without making mistakes? I think that's the order of the day if you're up front in the grid. We're going to have to watch the start very, very closely, because as we saw, it's an uphill start, and if you don't get a good launch, people can eat you up and you can lose 3 spots right off the gate, or you can get away, take that first turn without having to battle with somebody, and off you go.
Well, it's our biggest grid of the night, 20 cars for this A final. It's Michael Yanni leading them away. It is an Apex Racing 1-2-3. You do question maybe they'll be a bit more passive with one another, seeing that they are all affiliated with one another. White's in second place, then it's McCowan. Roma lines up in 4th place. Hopefully we see Roma versus McCowan again. That was really good back at Sorston. Then it's Jerry Zeineld. Velgert, Hammer is top of the Pro-Ams. Christiansen, Rudinger, Madsen, Humphrey top of the AMs. Then it's Cope in 12th position. Farrier, Holland, Balicki, Sedgley, Delzeal, Balicki again, Scully, and Young rounding out the 20 cars. I still think, watch out for Leon Rudinger, championship leader from 10th place. He wants to gain a few places to keep his championship hopes alive. But here we go. The 5 lights are on. An imperative race start coming up. Michael Yanni leads us away. So poor start for Luke McCowan again. And it looks like he might lose out to Malte Roma, who's going on the inside into turn 1. Also looking racing behind was the other Fire Academy driver in 5th place. And it looks like McCowan is going to lose that position. The top 2 already sprinting away as Fire Academy try to make the Apex Racing team driver pay as they go through turn 2. And they're being held up a little bit. Contact between the teammates now. And it looks like McCowan will be able to survive at least in 4th place. And it'll be Jerry Zeineld who will have to defend from the likes of the Velgert in order to hold on to that position. But Velgert actually a little bit offline himself. He's got Rudinger now with him. As look at McCowan, he's trying to come back into 3rd position. They're alongside through the penultimate corner. Bit of contact as well with Philip Hammer involved in that one. But Roma is still in 3rd position. And now McCowan has got a slowdown. There's a car smashing into the barrier in the background as well, spearing off the track. And it's all racing in these imperative early stages. So that's Thomas Cope sending it. Cope gaining about 3 places there into turn 1. And now there's another car round into the middle of the circuit. Big contacts being made. That was Tim Balicki and Bernardo Farrier.
Well, how's that for a lot of action on lap 1? I think what we saw there was some textbook teamwork.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Humphrey round from the lead at the AMs.
Yeah, I was saying we're seeing some textbook teamwork. You got Yanni and White friendly up front, you know, jumping out to a lead. Whereas, you know, we had the Fire Academy drivers, Romer and JBZ, as I like to call them, working together to kind of push Luke a little bit back in the grid. So the other thing that I thought was visibly evident is, you know, when you're on offense and running away, you can build the gap quickly. But when you are defending, look at how quickly that second pack of cars fell off the front 2 leaders.
Yeah, incredibly quick, the field spread right now. And it's just that one corner, isn't it? It's just turn 1. You identified it right before the race started. If you can get a clean run through turn 1, you immediately make a gap against the other drivers, and that was certainly the case. And then, yeah, with the slowdowns involved as we started lap 2, it really did get messy with Humphrey on the outside of a 3 wide. Not sure who the other drivers were. Maybe Sedgley and Dalziel. I feel like that's roughly where he was, just outside the top 10, Humphrey. He's down to 18th place now, and in fact, well, Humphrey did go back to the pits because he's absolutely miles away. In fact, he's over a lap down. In fact, he's in the pits. That makes sense. It's weird seeing 1.91, and that means that you're in the pits. The track's so short that a tenth of the circuit is just the pits. So that is Humphrey in the pits, and maybe the end of his day. Will still be the highest scoring amateur driver tonight, but maybe not quite getting as many points as what he would have wanted, as Nick Madsen, who's actually in the same place as where he started, wasn't able to make up much progress despite some of the action ahead of him. He's got Thomas Cope ahead, who had an incredible send into turn 1. Looked like he gained about 3 places, and he was also getting a bit racy as well on lap 1, was Cope. That'd be a good onboard to watch maybe from lap 1, but of course, you know, I was saying how lap 1 is absolutely important, the race start is very important. This is a very long race, 36 laps, over half an hour this A final is, and so we've got a long way to go to decide what the finishing order is going to be.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a question for our podium winners here at the end. Did this race feel long to you, or did it just feel like non-stop, never-ending action? I could see it go either way, but either way, I'm guessing they're probably going to need a shower after this race, because there's just no rest for the weary here. It's not like you can shake your hands out anywhere.
I think it's testament to the action that we're seeing at the moment. We're up to 30 viewers, so thank you very much to those who are just tuning in. You've come in at a good point, because this is basically now just a PESC qualifiers race. We match it up with the A final, the exact same length, the exact same conditions, and obviously the same track and layouts as the qualifier series. And so this is just a test. We've already had 2 heats and a B final in order to set this 20-car grid for the final race. Christensen versus Rudinger. Rudinger so quiet, and he was so dominant last time out at Silverstone, but just has not had it his own way, just hasn't had the pace. Frankly, he's driven well, but not his speedy self, maybe not quite being able to put in the practice so far this week, and he's in a slightly boring 8th position, I would say, looking at the back of Roger Christensen's car. Christensen, a former champion, I believe, of this series. Running in 7th position. They are losing a little bit of touch to the very much out of position Luke McCohen, who started up in 3rd for this race, but had an awful launch, and that's why he currently sits in 6th place.
Look at that train that's forming, though, from P4 almost all the way down to P12. So, again, this is a longer race. I think we're seeing some drivers exercise some patience, like Christensen. Wasn't necessarily pressing the issue into turn 1 just yet, but again, we've got a couple of pairs, a couple of trios here, nose to tail. It'll be very interesting if they're waiting to see if the driver in front makes a mistake, or are they just saving their tires so that later on, if they can hold this position, they can make a move later on in the race. Yes, we've got 29 more laps to go, but they will go by very quickly.
Yeah, they sure will do. I think they will go longest for, and I do support your naming of JBZ, or JBZ. I think that's very good. That's a very good one. Because I think I have been mispronouncing his name for the whole season. Is it Barry Zeineld or Jerry Zeineld? I'm not sure. Let us know in the chats if you are affiliated with the ARA Academy team. But there he is, uploading a profile picture, which we very much appreciate on the SDK Driver Information app. So thank you very much for doing that. But he is holding on at the moment and not making any mistakes, and just very much in the routine of it. Same corners coming up over and over and over again. The shortest lap of the circuits, shortest circuit of the season, sorry. As here comes Madsen. He's been able to get past Thomas Cope. Great work. 2 of our most competitive drivers from season 7 of this championship earlier on in the year. Madsen 1 corner away from taking the title on that occasion. We did go down to the wire. Cope winning a couple of A finals as well himself, but this time it's the Danish driver who has had the upper hand. Cope's going to try to come back, but I think Madsen's going to have this one covered.
Yeah, of our top 16 drivers, we only have 2 who've really lost positions, so I think everybody's feeling hopeful and optimistic at this point because they're making a little bit of progress car by car, position by position here. So let's see how that translates into aggressiveness as the race goes on.
Here comes Hammer. looking to get a pro-am into the top 10 for the first time in this race. Wasn't able to get past as they go beyond the white line, but not beyond the green. Do you know what the rules are? I mean, it is literally in the session that I can see, but I'm always just perplexed by what it means. Because it's not the green. It's like just a bit beyond the green that you have to go. Well, I mean, I don't understand iRacing because there's I'm looking at it in sim right now, and there's like a foot beyond the green that you've got to keep a wheel on. Yeah, I don't know where the limit is, but these drivers have figured it out clearly.
Yeah, every time I race here, whether it's this layout or the long layout, one of the very first things that I do is go back over and test, just do a couple of laps where I'm testing track limits, and then I'll put a marker. This is one of the advantages of the sim. I can put a marker on my screen with one of my overlays so that I know exactly where the center of my car is and exactly where the left side tires are, so that I can make maximum use of the track limits without going over. And so instead of using what's on the track, because to your point, it's a little different in each corner, I'm using the position of my car to assess whether I'm on track or not. And I've had a race here before, large grid, full track, and done the whole thing without making any X, doing it in that technique. Now, it's not the fastest because you're not taking the X's for speed, but there are some leagues that I race in where they aren't very generous with the X count. So you can, in a 45-minute race, if you only get in 12X, you can find yourself through the pits for the drive-through or a DQ pretty quickly if you're not careful.
I think a few drivers will be running that limit by the end of this race. In the heat, it looked like there were drivers over 10 incidents within a couple of laps, and those weren't necessarily drivers involved in incidents either. Like it was just they were absolutely racking up those off-checks. I think they're going to be a bit more conservative now that we've got this far longer A final. Philip Ham, by the way, up to 10th position. He was able to get past Cope. It looked like Cope got a slowdown. He was very slow down that pit straight the last time round. And he's down to 11th. So yeah, Cope, I swear, was like I think top of the drivers in practice, but maybe it's a bit of an inconsistency thing, or maybe the other drivers just weren't showing their hands in practice. But hasn't quite had the same pace. But of course, former GT3 trophy champion Thomas Cope really is a real high quality driver, and I'm sure he'll be back next week at Watkins Glen, which is going to be a crazy race and a far shorter A final. This A final's over half an hour long. The A final for the Watkins Glen round will be about 20, because it is, I mean, if this is an oval, that is definitely an oval, because it is rapid using the short layout, of course, on many of these circuits. Here comes Manuel Scully, the chat's favourite driver. I feel like he may have had a bit of a setback. I think Scully was a bit higher than this earlier on, but I might be telling lies, I must admit. But he is going to try to get past Kai Dalziel. Of course, these drivers, Dalziel, Scully and Balicki, all getting through from the B final earlier on, and their battle has very much been renewed here. And it looks like the Argentinian has got past. He's up to 14th.
Yep, 5 positions from where he started. So doing a good job of making use of getting into the final through the B final. And just picking off positions one by one. It's going to require patience to move all the way up through the grid, and I think he's exercising the right balance between aggression to make the overtakes, but not press it so much that you end your race early.
Thomas Cope has moved back up to 10th position. Don't know if there was a mistake from Philip Hammer. I felt like Hammer was quite comfortable. Maybe it was another slowdown, and also a fantastic profile picture. Yes, there is no colour. It doesn't matter. Philip, thank you for sending that one through, because that is nicely cut out, not easy with hair and stuff, but it looks like he's absolutely perfected that one. So thank you very much to Philip for uploading that one. Of course, you can go to SDK-gaming.co.uk. Did I just say SDK Gaming.co.uk? And then you can look on the driver information app. It's at the top of the webpage. And talking about one of our partners, another one of our partners is Virtual Racing School, who, of course, are in the iRacing software side of things when it comes to doing driver tutorials and driver coaching. However, they are also invested in hardware, of course, with their Direct Force Pro pedals, wheelbase, and wheel rim. You can go to vrs.racing in order to order yourself one of those products, of course, used in ESL R1 competitions for Rennsport, along with several professional teams, including Apex Racing team as well. Michael Yanni, very much familiar with the setup. I certainly know that, as rig is not that far away from myself, and of course all these pro trials all have raving reviews. Otherwise, they wouldn't use the equipment. They need every pace they can get. So big thanks to Virtual Racer School. Of course, if you're in the UK, do buy your products through apexracingsim.com. As Luke McCohen is up to 4th position. He's got past JBZ. And he also got past Mario Velget a little bit earlier. I think we missed the Velget move. But McCohen is up to 4th place. It's taken him a while, but he's almost back to where he started.
Yeah, chipping away, as my trainer likes to call it. When you've got 36 laps to get through, it's not all going to happen in one move in one lap. So just chip away at it, and he's doing a nice job of that. The other thing I was going to say, you were talking about track limits. Parker White was showing us brilliantly through the last 2 corners exactly how to do it. Generally speaking, it's the midpoint of the car on the line between the red and the green and white. But on that final turn, if you can keep tires on the green, you're only going to get a 1x if you go wide of that. If you get all your tires off the green, that's where you're going to get the slowdown.
Seeing K Dalzio come into the pits, that is a drive-through, but for some reason he stopped. I don't know why he stopped. I'm not sure if the drive-through will be served, seeing that he has stopped. Bernardo Faria also with a drive-through penalty. As an admin for the session, I can see all this stuff. Interesting that JBZ is actually fairly close, but JBZ is only 3 incidents away from picking up a drive-through. So he's got to be careful there. We've got half the race to go.
Well, I think that is evidence that these guys are really pushing and moving on the edge here. This is a track that is very unforgiving if you go off track. You can rack up those points very, very quickly. So I think it's just a mindset and a mentality. Some drivers are like, you know, the off tracks and the X's be damned. I'm just going to go as fast as I can. There's others who try to manage it a little bit like their tires throughout the race and save them for the end when you really need to push.
Nick Madsen making a mistake. I feel like that was a solo mistake. I don't think Thomas Cope was particularly close. Cope is now up to 9th position from a low of 11. And here it was. Nowhere near was Cope. Madsen, let's see how similar it is to the Costa incident as he got on the curb on the exits. Was a little bit different. He didn't beach it necessarily, he didn't like ride it like a Tony Hawk, but he still went over it and that did unsettle the car. And Madsen, a little bit of frustration there. Fortunately, didn't hit the wall like Costa did, or as hard as Costa did at least. And so he's able to continue. We'll have a fun race to try to recover a few of those positions. As we see JBZ, who of course is limited on off tracks. And so that might be what Mayer Velget needs in order to overtake.
Yeah, that's one feature I sort of go back and forth whether iRacing should allow drivers to be able to know how many X's the guy in front has. It would be, you know, and sometimes when you're chasing like this, you'd like to know, gee, should I push? I imagine the reason they don't is because obviously they don't want to encourage people to tap bumpers and push people over the incident limit. But it is something that if you have a spotter, or you can, you know, you have somebody who's in your ear, maybe keeping track of your closest competition. It is useful information to know if you're the chasing driver. How hard can you push? How likely is this guy to be conservative because he's on the edge of the incident limit?
Dalziel back to the pits. That's a bit of a shame. He was having a nice battle with Scully and Balicki before, but not anymore. Unfortunately, he is had to go back to the pits for some sort of reason.
Well, I think you pointed out that he had stopped when he went through last time, so my guess is that drive-through didn't clear, and so he's back in again. Oh, no, he stopped again.
Oh, he stopped again. Now he's out the car.
Yeah, maybe he's frustrated that it didn't clear, and so it's like, I got to go back through again. That's like a double penalty for the same offense. That's tough to swallow.
Velget underneath. What's going on in front of them? Is that a back marker? I think it is. I think that's Balicki of the Tim variety. Velget is past. Where's he's gone? He's gone. JPZ, he's gone straight ahead. He was going on the Grand Prix layout. And I'm not sure what was going on there. The back marker got out the way, and then there must have been contact here with the 146 already alongside. What's going on with all these drivers just stopping on the side of the circuit? JBZ, maybe he picked up, I wonder if he picked up a 1x maybe. I was like, I cannot be asked to. Yeah, he was up to 17 instants. I think he literally just picked up a 1x. I was like, I can't be asked to serve a drive-through. Life's too short. I don't want to do 15 more laps of this oval, and I don't want to do a drive-through, so I'm calling it a day. There you go. Thomas Cope up to 8th position. Hammer up to 9th.
Yeah, that's probably a more plausible explanation. I was thinking maybe it was just muscle memory. He was thinking he was heading down to the long straight and heading up to the you know, the original or you know, turn 3 remus as it's called. So you know, I've done that before on tracks before. You just kind of get into autopilot and you forget where you are on track.
Happened to me, I think, when I was 10 one time, and I tried to turn right for a hairpin and forgot that it was a fast sweeping chicane. Didn't lose me too much time, but yeah, it can happen. I don't think that was the case on that occasion though. Just a lot of frustration. It happens with this circuit. It's not a very fun circuit, and so it has probably angered a few of these drivers preparing for this race, and of course doing these 23 laps so far, 22 laps in the books, 22 and a half now. And still got a fair few more to go as well. Newen Flores saying, my mother gave me life, Scully gave it meaning. Fantastic comments. I'm loving this fanfare for Scully, and doing that will get him on camera more often. And in fact, he's got past Nick Madsen. I don't know if you can see the replay here. See Manuel in all of his glory, because Madsen made that mistake, but Scully was still behind at that point. He's been able to get past since. And here was a bit of a replay of it. Oh, this was a nice battle then. So this is with Sedgley as well. So he's been able to get past the pair of them. And what a drive this is from Scully. They're messing about with one another. Scully not even noticing them. Takes the racing line. And Bosch is up to 11th place.
I'd say that's a very common experience with this layout and this close of racing. You know, if you're the second or third driver, just hang back. That, you know, you saw a nice pick get set there from a mistake in front, and quickly you can jump 2 spots and take over the lead of those 2 cars.
Philip Hammer having to defend against Dan Holland at the moment, and he's been able to hold on to the Pro-Am category lead as it stands. But Madsen, I think, may well be back past Scully fairly soon. The gap is just 0.02 of a second. Has got a bit of damage on that car after his spin earlier on. Did tap the wall, and of course, then contact with Sedgley, as we saw a couple of laps ago. And once again, that turn 2 has been the main overtaking spot. Albeit a few drivers have got sort of slowdowns coming out of the final corner, which has meant a fair few overtakes into turn 1. But in normal racing, turn 2 is still the place to get it done. Christensen still had a Rudinger. These guys have been best friends throughout. No change throughout. They were actually in the same heat as well, and finished in these positions pretty much as well. They were, I think, 4th and 5th in their heats. Third and 4th in their heats, apologies. So these two have been absolutely glued to one another, and looking like there's not going to be any change. Rudinger remaining in 7th place. That would be enough to keep the championship lead, I believe.
Yeah, we'll have to see. You know, I wonder if once the lap counter starts getting into the 30s, if, you know, the friendlies, you know, the friendly driving goes away and they start to get a little bit more racy here. But you're right. You know, Rudinger is in good overall standing for the championship through the season. So it's really Christensen who needs to fight to make up ground from a disappointing race last week.
At the moment, Christensen on 13 incidents. We've got Thomas Cope on 14, so running it a bit tight. Rudinger is on... I think he might... No, he's not on 0. No, he's on 15. Oh, so Rudinger's fairly close as well. So I think that's going to discourage them from attacking even more. We are getting into the closing stages though, so it doesn't look quite as ominous if you've only got 2 to play with at this point. Well, he's got 1 to play with as Rudinger 2, and that will be a drive-through penalty. Here comes the send. He doesn't care, 4x or not. He's going to go for the move, and I think he's through his Rudinger. He's fully clear, and well, he was luring me into a false sense of security. Maybe he lured Christensen into a false sense of security as well, because after waiting behind him for probably 40 laps tonight here at the Red Bull Ring, he's done it finally. He's got past that turn 2, and Leon Rudinja, as long as he can keep it on the black, red and some of the green stuff, he should be clean in that 6th position to the end of the race.
Yeah, that Red Dragon just sort of lying in wait, didn't even wait for the 30th lap to come by. He sort of jumped right on cue there and took over that spot. So I'd say that, exercise in patience if you're waiting 40 laps to make the overtake on the same driver you've been looking at for the whole night.
So Christensen, I think will be decently happy with 7th position. I think he will need to find the positives in it, honestly. I don't think it's going to change for the Valkyrie Excite driver.
Yeah, they've got 4 seconds ahead and 5 behind, so they're kind of off in their own little world here. It's just between Rudinger and Christensen, so if he's going to let him have the position, I would imagine that's probably, they're just going to follow each other to the finish line.
Hope still ahead of Hammer. Hammer's been able to pull away from Dan Holland slightly. Well done to Dan Holland, by the way. He's had a good round of the championship. Philip Hammer's been formidable in the Pro-Am so far this season. And so to keep up has been a good effort. He might be getting a bit closer soon as well, because Cope is having to go on the defence. Moving all the way to the inside the turn 2. He holds on. The driver ahead of them is... I think that's Tim Balicki ahead of them. Yes, it is. He is a lap down already, so it doesn't matter too much what happens with Tim. Tim looks like he's going to finish top of the amateur dress, because Bob Humphrey doesn't look like he's going to be able to finish at all, unfortunately. Had to go back, or had an incident. Roma and McCohen. McCohen is off now. What's gone on here with Luke McCohen? Has he reached the instant limit and called it a day himself? He has. He's up to 23 incidents. What happened here? I think this is contact.
Oh, took the wall. He just came in a little hot and took evasive action. I bet the wall is what gave him the points.
Well, I think he was already tanking at that point. He reached, I think because he was already on 19. Even if he picked up 4 incidents there, he was already on 19. And that's it for him at that point. He didn't want to serve the drive through, and so another driver out of the race. These guys are keeping it clean, though. These guys are keeping it very clean. Parker White's got a fair few. He's got 10, but that's not too bad. Nick Madsen, by the way, is on 16, so he's 1 away. Udinja's on 16, he's 1 away. And then
what about Yanni, who's been out in front the whole race?
Yanni is on. Yes, guess how many Yanni's on?
He's probably less than 10.
Correct. He's on 4.
Okay.
I mean, that's how you drive it.
That's the advantage of getting out in front and getting some clean air, because then you can really manage the off tracks. I know a lot of drivers who have a love-hate relationship with this. Like, if you do well, you love it, but boy, if these off tracks come up and bite you, there's some people who will curse this track to the till the next race comes along.
Of course, both these guys doing well the other day in the PESC qualifiers. It's not the contenders. Qualifiers tend to do to the contenders. And of course, those who aren't aware, there's currently a 6-round championship for PESC next season to qualify for PESC. And they're running the same circuits as this, and it's on a Saturday. I think last Saturday, I want to say in top split, I think it was Yanni and White who were top 2. I want to say. I might be wrong on that. I might go check it. But of course, those top drivers, I think Roman and maybe Velka as well, involved in that as well, trying to go pro, trying to get into the Contenders Series. Ever so competitive as PESC. Only 30 slots available, and 15 of them are currently available for next year. So you need to get into the Contenders, finish top 15 in the Contenders, and then you are a pro driver and have the opportunity to earn a bit of cash and also earn a lot of prestige as well. It is one of the most competitive series in all of iRacing. And he keeping this one under control. I do hope though that Parker sends it. Come on guys, it doesn't matter too much if you make contact. just send it, and yeah, we can have a nice fight. This is pretty much as close as Parker's been. He's really given Yanni no respite whatsoever as they start their 34th lap of this race.
Yes, I think I just heard team orders from the principal. The gloves are off. You're allowed to race. So let's see what these two guys have. You know, it's funny, when we started the race, I just eyeballed the grid, and the top 5 drivers had 40,000 iRating combined, and the top 10 drivers were over 60,000. So that'll just give you a sense of how stacked the top of this grid is.
I thought Rudinja was safe, but I was probably wrong to say that because obviously he's got no incidents to play with now as Rudinja. He's already on 16 instance, limit of 17. Oh, that's a bit of movement there from Thomas. He's close to the limit as well. He can't afford a 4x, and here comes Hammer. These guys have been so close to one another throughout this race. Hammer did get past for a bit, and then Cope was able to respond. They're very close to contact. Cope nearly shut the door on him, but I think Hammer might be able to get past here. And surely Cope's just got to give this one in because he doesn't want to pick up another 1x. And if he tries to on the outside of the penultimate corner, that is what he will yield. And so Hammer is up to 7th position. Fantastic points all coming his way as it stands. Cope in 8th position, Holland in 9th, and Scully still keeping behind Madsen in 10th place.
Hammer time, getting it done, and a nice recovery drive, because at one point in time he was down 4 spots, and he's now climbed right back up to where he started this race. I think we got to give him some credit and props here, because he's just been incredibly consistent all 3 races. He's at the top of the Pro-Am standings for a reason, and I think we're seeing that on display here.
Was really strong last season, of course part of Impulse Racing have had much success in the series in the past. Was maybe a bit harsh to put him in the Pro-Am category in the first place, honestly, saying that he had such good results last season. But here comes Cope. He doesn't care about the 1x's. He's going to send it, and through the final corner, such respect being paid by all these drivers. But here comes Holland. Holland might make it 3 wide as they cross the start-finish line. It's gone to their final lap. And Holland, with the momentum and with the superior line, will surely move up in just a few moments' time. They're still going 3 wide. And Cope is able to come out of it on top in 7th position. And it's all the same order as it was a couple of laps ago. Cope, Hammer, Holland, Scully catching up significantly as well. Bowles in the lead. Michael Yanni absolutely dominant for Apex Racing team, leading throughout his heat and throughout the A final, and he beats Parker White by half a second to the race win here at Red Bull Ring. Roma finishes in 3rd place. Rudinja will cross the line. I don't think he's reached the 17 incident, so he's fine. 5th place for him is solid points for the championship. Cope will beat Hammer. It will be a Pro-Am victory for Philip Hammer, but I think it will feel like a race win for Thomas Cope because that was very hard earned. And top of the amateur drivers tonight, we knew it was going to be the case a while back. Tim Berlicki in 14th place, a lap down, but still a big haul of points for the German driver.
I mean, how fitting that we see a 3-wide highlight on the last lap of the race without incident, without contact. Those guys were all on the edge of the incident limits. We saw so many drivers bang doors, hit the curb, spin out, get on throttle too early, lose momentum, and they did none of the above. That was, well, you could argue maybe they were just practicing for that move all during the heats, and they showed us their skill there. That was fantastic.
Michael Yanni then with the race victory, half a second ahead of White. That was pretty much as big as the gap ever got during the 36 laps. Malte Roma in 3rd position. There's Mario Velga, Leon Rudinja, Roger Christiansen, then 7th position. And top of the Pro-Ams was Philip Hammer ahead of Dan Holland, Manuel Scully, and Nick Madsen. Behind him was Daniel Sedgley, Luis Berlicki, Thomas Cope. No, so Cope did pick up the 40-second penalty. So he was that was why he was sending it at the end, because he was like, I've not got the penalty anyway, so I might as well just absolutely try to get track position. That's a shame for Cope. So that lost him 40 seconds, I believe, is the standard penalty. So he was last of the drivers on the lead lap. There's Tim Berlicki, top of the AMs. There was McCohen, JBZ, Kai Dalziel, Bernardi Farrier, Bob Humphrey, and Aidan Young. Young working so hard to get into the A final, but it ended for him very quickly. He didn't complete a lap, according to my screen.
Yeah, we had 20 drivers in the field. I'm gonna draw the love-hate line somewhere around P12, maybe above Cope there, because boy, that's a bummer when you finish a race with a black flag you couldn't clear, and so you drop all the way back to the lead lap. That's a painful penalty, but so I'm not sure whether he loves or hates the race today. But those guys who had to finish early, unfortunate. But we saw some fantastic racing from all those who made it to the end.
And one of the drivers who made it to the end was Parker White, who I think we're going to drag up for a chat now. Parker, congratulations. Of course, a race victory in your heats and second place in the A final. It seemed like you were very comfortable with this car track combo tonight.
Yeah, it felt really good for me. I won the heat, like you said, started P2 in the feature. I got a good launch right off the start, and I was able to hang on to P2 for most of the race. And our car wasn't too good on the short run, but long run we were pretty good. And I was really close to my goal, I think, with around 10 to go, and then I just had a mistake in turn 2, lost about half a second, and it was just an uphill climb from there to try to get back to my goal to see if I could make a move. So I started using the turn 1 off track. I got up to about 15x by the end of the race, so I wasn't really going to make any too aggressive moves and get myself a 4x and get a penalty, but this is my best finish of the season so far, so happy to get a P2, and that's a really solid points day for me.
Yeah, it really is. Of course, you guys use this race as a preparation for the qualifiers on Saturday. What is it that you learn from these races which you can apply on Saturday?
Mostly just racing other people at the tracks. That's one thing that's helped me out a lot, was at both Hockenheim and Silverstone starting mid-pack and just getting to race everybody side by side and see what moves work, what moves don't. And it's also just kind of a good indicator on how other people are going to be racing and how other teams stack up compared to us. And it just gives us a good idea going into Saturday what to expect and kind of what moves to do, what moves not to do, and just helps us with overall racecraft and just preparation for the race.
Yeah, speaking of racecraft, where do you think the best places to overtake are rounds here? I mean, it looks pretty tricky, but I mean, if you're maybe in that same position on Saturday, where is it that you think that you'll be lining up that overtake?
I think definitely turn 2 is going to be your best bet at getting an overtake done, especially if you have a couple off tracks left to spare. You can take the off track in T1, get a really good launch, and then just send it up the inside as long as they don't defend. And if they do defend, you can try to stick it on the outside, and then if you can hang around there, you'll have the inside going into turn 3. So I think turn 2 is definitely going to be the best place to overtake.
Yeah, we very much saw it last year, and yeah, it looks like it's going to be the case this year as well. But yeah, hopefully that you can keep up this strong performance when it comes to the big race on Saturday. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to, Parker?
Yeah, I just got to thank you guys at Apex Racing TV for the broadcast. I have to thank Apex Racing League for putting on this league. Gives us a lot of good preparation going into Saturday. I have to thank Apex Racing Academy, everybody involved over there for all the hard work on the car, and I think that's about it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Parker, and best of luck for Saturday and, of course, next Wednesday as well.
Yep, thank you.
That was Apex Racing Academy driver Parker White, and yeah, he's looking very strong in the qualifier series and just getting faster and faster in this Porsche Cup car. I don't think he's been driving it for too long. I think mainly an oval guy is Parker historically, and so it's just getting absolutely rapid, as everyone was expecting him to in these road cars as well. Chad, would you like to have a chat with our race winner tonight?
Yes, let's bring Michael in and hear whether he was lonely in the front or what kind of race he had. Michael, congratulations on the win today. That was a fantastic performance. You know, we have a couple questions from the booth. When you're out in front like that, you jumped out to an early lead and sort of maintained it for the whole race. Were you sweating it for the race, worrying about the guys catching up, or were you able to just kind of run clean? Was there an advantage to being up front and getting out in front early like that?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. I think that the lead here is a really big advantage, just because you get the clean air, and you can also dictate the pace of the race. I mean, there's really minimal opportunities for overtaking, so it's a lot less stressful than other rounds for sure. But yeah, once you're out there, at least for me, I was trying to manage the tire over the stint, keep the rears under me, and I mean, at the start we were a little worried because Malte in P3 was catching quite significantly. But you know, we were also confident that if we kept the pace up that we had at that point, we would be able to keep the tires to the end. And I think that paid off pretty well. But yeah, to answer your question specifically, it's a lot less stressful than normal, to tell you the truth, because unless you're really making a big mistake, you can't get overtaken here, I think.
Yeah, we were wondering whether, for being a front runner, whether tires were more of a concern or incident points, because incident points sure seem to be part of the storyline for many in the grid. Yet when you're out in front, maybe you can keep it on track and save those points for later. We're just wondering what your thinking was as the race unfolded there.
Sure, I tried to keep them as minimal as possible, even in the case of being out front. There maybe could be some contact. Like if Parker's not my teammate behind me, maybe the guy goes for a send and then we get 4x'd, whatever. Here it's going to be really critical, obviously, to not get 1x's. And I think, again, being out front, or at least in clean air, has a really good advantage for that, because you can easily spot all the track limits and know where your car is placed, where when you're following somebody really closely, especially through some of the exits around here, it's quite easy to kind of follow their car. So if they pick up a 1x, then you'll pick up one as well. And then if you end up with too many at the start, then it leads to a race where you have to manage the 1x's as well as get pace, and that's extremely difficult to do both at the same time.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. You know, the other thing I wanted to ask you about that, particularly at the start, we saw a couple of the teams, the Apex teams clustered together, and I think it was, can't remember who the other team was, but anyway, a lot of offense and defense, and just wondering how much, you know, having a teammate around you or near you factors into your thinking on an aggressive start like that.
Sure, yeah, it definitely is very helpful to have someone like Parker right behind me. In a normal scenario where your teammate's not behind you, there's a lot more kind of stress to get pace out of the car and find the rhythm as quickly as possible. Just because if you make a small mistake, then the guy behind you is going to go for it. And getting shuffled back in a field like this is almost like karting in an aspect where once you start to fall back, you'll just keep falling back. So having Parker there, it's basically a godsend, because he can just park it or defend, and it's an extra barrier between me and the drivers that aren't on the team. Because I know that if we're in communications like we are together, if Parker knows he's quicker, then I'll let him go. Like in terms of the team aspect of that, we have an understanding to where whoever's leading, if they have the pace, they keep going. If not, we'll switch it up, see what we can do. So yeah, like if he feels like he goes quicker, he communicates, moves done. But in terms of that race, I think the pace up front was good, and him being there was even less stressful than it would be if it was me out front there with a different team behind.
Well, that's good to know. That's kind of how it seemed to us, that you and Parker kind of jumped out cleanly, but then you had Luke, who unfortunately got caught up with the fire team, and they just in those first two turns fell back a couple of seconds. Well, fantastic race. Anything, anyone you'd like to thank for the result today, or anything that made this anyone who made this possible for you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, all the Apex guys, we worked really hard to get the car where we want it, so we all put in a good amount of effort for that. So I want to thank them. You guys, obviously, for doing the broadcast. It's quite cool to go back and watch it. And then, yeah, I mean, anyone who supports me out there and stuff, like Twitter, anything like that, I notice you, so it's cool to see. So thanks.
Well, fantastic. Congratulations again on a very dominant, consistent performance today, taking first place overall. Good luck in the PAS qualifying as it comes up on Saturday.
Awesome. Thanks, man. See you guys.
So that was our race winner, Michael Yanni, who will be very close to the championship summit, I would have thought as well, after this round of the series. And, well, he's looking for his second Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup tights after taking it last year when we had, well, the same 6 circuits with the same cars. So he's certainly got a very good pedigree for these tracks. Next up, Chad, we go to Watkins Glen. Like I said, it should be a race about half the time length of this one, because it's going to be such a quick circuit. Last year, that circuit was bad in ARL and in the qualifiers, because it's only got, I think, 3 braking zones, and a couple of them are barely braking zones. It is such a change up to this one. It is as close as we're going to get to a NASCAR race as you're going to get.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see what those guys do as they come out of the carousel down through that fast sweeper to the right. How close to the wall are they coming to maximize speed, or how much are they going to have to take the inside line? So, boy, that's going to be a fast non-stop track. Really looking forward to next week.
Yeah, will be fantastic. And of course, then after that, got a couple more rounds to round out the series. But so, of course, that's the first half of the championship complete. Thank you very much for watching along with us. Of course, if you've enjoyed it, please do leave a like on this video. Subscribe to Apex Racing TV, because there's loads more action and a variety of cars coming up, particularly the Apex Racing Academy Formula 3 VRS Super Series on Friday evening should be very good. We've got Radicals as well on Friday, 3.5 on Saturday. We've got Weekend Warriors and a variety of cars on Sunday, and loads of other series as well coming up on Apex Racing TV. So do subscribe to the channel and check out our social media pages. We posted a nice little edit of one of the action points of Silverstone in this series last week. So do visit the Apex Racing TV Instagram, Twitter and Facebook pages in order to see a bit of extra content from the races that we broadcast. Of course, thanks to SDK Gaming, to Virtual Racing School and to Apex Racing Academy for sponsoring the series as well. But for now, from myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Chad Dick and from Samuli Kume, we will say goodbye and we'll see you back next week at New York State for round 4 of the championship at Watkins Glen. See you then.